Hey everybody, it's Jimmy and Bill. So today we're filming from Kissimmee, Florida, Old Town.
Kiss you? What?
Kissimmee, Florida. So if you guys check it out, it's called Old Town. Bunch of theme stuff to do, shops, some rides. It's pretty fun. So what we're going to be talking about today is everybody's in a panic. You know, after the hurricane, a lot of people living along the seashore are panicking, and they're like, hey, that scared me too much. You know, we had a foot of water and in the house, and I can't go through it again. It's too stressful, and the insurance costs. So we're going to go over a lot of reasons why people are in panic state, and they're saying no more living on the water. We're going to sell and get out. But if you like this kind of content, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification so you're notified next time we upload a video. So Bill, what's after this past hurricane along the seashore, okay, what is one of the things that people are really concerned about?
Well, insurance would be one of them.
Right.
You know, the costs of insurance rise. Or if, unfortunately, if you did experience damage, getting your property repaired and then continuing on with insurance is a big one. You know, whether or not they're going to get dropped or how much their rates are going to get increased.
Well, the other problem, too, is a lot of people, they had hurricane insurance, but they didn't have storm surge. And this storm for us was more of a storm surge situation.
Oh, for flood insurance.
Flooding.
Right. Okay.
So now they're like, okay, we got 2-3 feet of water in the house. You might as well have 4 or 5 feet of water,
Yeah, flood is flood. If it's an inch and it does damage, it does damage. It's unfortunate.
And not only that, but now what's happening is a lot of the insurance companies, even though they didn't have flood in the house, a lot of insurance companies are saying, you know what? It's too much for us,
Well, yeah, I mean, that's no secret. And everybody, a lot of insurance companies are backing out of Florida because of the loss. But at the end of the day, we were talking about this earlier before we jumped on here. Let's go around the country where there's some sort of a loss somewhere.
Sure.
Everywhere.
Like California has wildfires.
And earthquakes.
And earthquakes, but mostly wildfires. Insurance companies there are pulling out because they're like, we can't deal with the wildfires anymore.
Right. And there's tornadoes in other areas, and, there's something everywhere, I think.
So people are definitely panicking. Like how many people, like we know one person in the neighborhood where I own property that bought 2-3 months ago. First experience, I think they were from Jersey, first experience with a hurricane.
Yep.
They wake up, and they look outside and there's 2 feet of water all the way around their house.
Right.
So they can't get out. So now they're in panic mode and they're like, that's it. We're selling it, not dealing with it anymore because they weren't expecting all that stuff.
Right.
So I guess it's panic, it's fear, even though it was devastating, it could have been a lot worse.
Oh, of course it could have. When it comes to that stuff, obviously you don't want to ignore what authorities are telling you and things of that nature. And it's absolutely no secret that Floridians don't, necessarily panic per se about the storms. We're used to it. They come around once in a while, and we're pretty accustomed to that lifestyle, I guess, is a better way to put it. I grew up on the coast, and it's a way of life. It's
not going to be like, if you're ever going to get hit, it's like when you're going to get hit kind of thing,
Right. Eventually you will, but you have to remember hurricane is huge and it looks super menacing when we are looking at things on the news, but the hurricane winds that they talk about, all that devastation, don't extend out very far. That doesn't mean you take it lightly. You have to plan.
Yeah, you have to take all the storms seriously.
Right. And
if they have a mind of their own, they could just switch directions.
They can switch directions. I know they've done that several times over the last couple of years. And the big thing to also remember is, the storm surge is what worries me more than anything else. Because once the water comes up, you can't get out. Right. So when a storm This storm in particular, for me personally, this one I had more concern with being on the coast, simply because of the storm surge potential. And it's very, very hard to predict what the storm surges are going to be. But at the end of the day, if I even have a thought that there's going to be storm surge, we get our stuff and we leave.
Right.
It's just, yeah, it stinks and it costs money to do that. And I know now's the last time we need to be spending more money. But at the end of the day, better safe than sorry.
Yeah, but it also, hurricane, a lot of people are panicking because it could be financially ruining. Some people just can't afford the insurance and they
Right.
don't have a mortgage. So now one storm could really knock them financially.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now we got fear, we got financial situations.
Yeah.
Now we have that people are, just can't get insurance. They have this
Right.
insurance situation, and a lot of people have ranches. So
Right.
so talk about that a little bit.
Not ranches like a cowboy ranch, but like a ranch here in
Yeah.
Florida. It's like a single story slab on grade, which is slab on the ground. No, it's not elevated.
It's not elevated. So it's
In any
probably
way,
like
shape, or form.
5 feet, 6 feet over sea level.
Whatever the neighborhood is.
Whatever the neighborhood is. So, that could be a huge issue.
Right.
So now, what is it going to do to the value of their house? So people will say, all right, you want to sell your house? Okay, talk about this a little bit. The people buying the house might not be able to get insurance, or if they get insurance, it might be $10,000. So talk about that, why stilt houses are so much more expensive than.
Well, twofold. The people buying maybe a ranch style house, they're coming into this, they're going to, during their due diligence period, they should be looking for insurance, and they're kind of coming into this with open eyes, or they should at least be coming into this with open eyes. It's still waterfront property at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a commodity. There's only so much coastline for us to sell properties on. If you're going to, maybe an investor's coming in or something, and they're going to, knock down the smaller house.
Which we saw that
We've
already.
seen that a lot.
So we
especially
saw
now.
we saw that a couple of times.
Yep.
The investors came in, and I talked to one of the investors, like, I don't care what it looks like. It's like, I'm knocking it down.
Yeah, they don't care. It's like, here's fair market value or just under, because it's convenient, close in, a short period of time, and they're on to the next project, and then they put stilts in and they go up. So that may or may not alleviate the need for flood insurance. You have to speak to your flood professional about that. However, it does drastically limit the probability of flooding again, because you're up 10, 12 feet on a stilt house. So you don't have to worry, unless unless you store all your stuff underneath and you don't take it out. But the point of a stilt house is to be up so that you're not, so your personal items aren't, in the flood zone.
Right. No, I agree with that. But so some people, don't care about the losses. Give you an example. Somebody near the neighborhood where I am, they paid $285 for the house. Again, ranch.
Yeah.
Grade situation. Okay. And what ended up happening was they got flooded, got 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So they went in, they had no insurance. They were, and they cut, all the sheetrock halfway down where it was all rotten and everything.
Right.
And they didn't realize how expensive it was going to be to repair.
Yeah.
They ended up, because they didn't have a mortgage, they ended up selling it for $145, like 2 weeks ago.
Just to get out. So it's to not knowing any of this, it sounds like an investor. So somebody came in and says, listen, you don't have a mortgage. This is what I can offer for the property, because it's basically you're just buying the land and a little bit of extra for the house.
Yeah. So, I mean, to them, it was such a stressful situation.
Right. They just wanted out, it sounds like.
They just wanted out.
Yeah.
And now, they love the water. I actually spoke to them. They're like, listen, we love the water, but the stress was just way too much for us.
Right. Those are the things you're going to have to deal with. But I mean, even for us just a little bit further inland, it's still stressful to an extent, but on the water, I've lived on the water. I get it. It's stressful. But this is one of those things, as I mentioned before, you do kind of get accustomed to it. Think about where you came from. You came from New York.
Right.
So blizzards and snowstorms and stuff like that would freak me out.
Okay.
Because I don't experience, I'm in Florida. It's like 98 today. I just am not used to that environment.
Right.
So a snowstorm where I just got snowed in for 3 or 4 days, that would freak me out. But being here's a hurricane. This isn't that big of a deal. I get it. It's coming, but I plan for it. I know it's here. I'm prepared. And if I need to evacuate my family, we do. We get in the truck and we go somewhere else. We're not necessarily going to get away from the storm completely because they are somewhat unpredictable. But if I'm out on the coast, I'm not going to stick around to save a couple $100 to go inland somewhere.
Okay, let me ask you a question now. Now, like, if you look at Zillow before the hurricane, there was some houses for sale, along the water.
Uh-huh.
But now when I go to Zillow and I look at the same neighborhood, it's like a Christmas tree, okay?
Right.
There's probably 3 times to 4 times more houses for sale. It is what it is.
Right.
Okay? What do you think? And those houses will eventually sell. They might sell at a discounted rate if they have current damage and
Just
stuff.
depends, yeah.
But in your opinion, do you think that the storm wears off people's minds and then the values will start going up? Because right now, I can tell you right now that everybody's doing reduction in prices, just from what I'm seeing, because of the storm.
I don't know if it's necessarily because of the storm. So in a situation like this, I think, without being able to see the data, I would want to compare, is the house that's been reduced in price, was it listed before, number one?
No,
and
a lot
number
of these houses just got listed.
Right, and then number two, was there damage to it?
Yeah, pretty much every house in those areas got damage.
But you need to look and see if there was damage to it, because you're buying it in a different state. It may not even be habitable. So there's a lot of factors when it comes to that, and just using one of the forward-facing, just arbitrary, the numbers are plummeting. I don't know if that's necessarily the best, because that doesn't necessarily mean that when you rebuild your house, that your values aren't right back up there again or higher. Right. Similar to like the house that was on Seaview, that was worth, what was it, 400 and some odd thousand?
Mm-hmm.
And then they put a $1.8 million house on the property. That doesn't mean that house isn't valued at that. That house is valued at that new value because they built a new house.
Right. So basically, well, my point is it going to be like, South Florida, Anna Maria Island down with the guy hit with a hurricane? Some of these houses got annihilated.
Right.
Like gone, like just see the foundation.
Right. There's no house to sell. You're selling land.
You're selling land. So investors came in, they sold, they got insurance, or people rebuilt, and they built to current code.
Right.
And now those houses are kind of expensive.
Of course, yeah, they're building to value, and now investors came in, and there's money to be made there because they're basically redeveloping an area.
Right. So it's all the old that didn't meet the current codes is getting wiped out, and now they're building houses on stilts. So if this, like we know that all the houses that were on stilts in my neighborhood there,
yeah,
they got 3 feet of water, they got 4.
There's no damage.
No damage at all.
Right.
Because everything is up. So these people that are panicking and want to move out of the area because they got scared of the storm, a lot of them just can't financially.
Well, are they scared or are they financially not able to do it? Because they're two different things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like if you're scared, then take a breath for a minute is my advice. Don't make decisions when you're panicking. It tends not to be the best decision. Kind of calm, just take a step back and think about it for a second. And then if it's financial, that's just financial. You know your finances, and you're going to have to figure out your finances and whether or not you can or cannot afford a property, or you can or cannot afford to remodel your property. There's different ways to fix things besides a mortgage, but that's very, very much a case-by-case basis.
Well, the people that have houses on the ground level, in my opinion, have reason to be concerned, because they could just finish rebuilding next week, and then 2 weeks from now we could have another hurricane.
if you want to be doomsday-ish, yeah. I mean,
It's
it's
realistic.
happened.
Yeah,
right.
you got.
But I look
be
at
factional. You know, it's possible.
being here for 48 years. How many times has that happened in 48 years, where it's back-to-back hurricanes in the same area over and over and over again?
No, I have no idea.
You know?
I never looked.
Because I think it's only happened once, and it's not even, if you're getting super specific, it's not the same area over and over again. Wait. So it's, if you're scared, you're scared. Take a breath, think things through all the way before you just pull the panic trigger, because you just don't make good decisions that way. And this is finances. This is a big step. If you're scared, at the end of the day, if you're not happy where you live, and you're not happy where you're living, right? If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. That's two different things.
My point is, some of these people, because I actually spoke to them, they're like, okay, I'm going to rebuild. I'm ground level. Might not get a storm this year. Might not get a storm next year or the following year, but the third year I might get a storm.
Yeah, you might
have to rebuild and go through the stress again.
Yeah.
So that's things
pros and cons of living on the coast.
Yeah. So, but if you could financially, to alleviate a lot of the stress, if you could, you know, if it's damaged, you know, and get rid of the whole house and build a still house, I just think still houses reduces a lot of the stress.
Yeah, if you have no house and it's gone and they're demoing it, put a still house in and be done with it. Yeah. You're probably going to have to anyway, because the house is gone. So you're going to have to rebuild to the new standards.
If the damage is up to a certain point, then they're going to condemn the house.
Right.
So then
if it's that bad,
they're not going to allow you to build just still houses over again.
Right. That's, and the codes require that in certain areas simply because of the reasons that we're discussing.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily alleviate somebody's fear. You know, I'm telling you, like, if I was stuck in a house that was flooded, that would, there might be a little panic going on there. Right. Even for me. Right. I grew up here. I was a fireman 26 years. You know, I've seen this, and I've seen the devastation, and that's why I understand a little bit differently of, you know, people just making those decisions rashly is tough. And and I understand where you're coming from, but I'm just saying, you know, no house is worth the stress to me. If it's going to stress you out every hurricane season, that, oh my God, is a hurricane going to hit and you're losing sleep over it, it's not worth it. Right. Then I wouldn't be living on the coast. Right. It's just not the, it's not the, live 10 minutes from the coast. Yeah. You know what I mean? A 10-minute drive is not bad. Live 10 minutes from the coast, and you're not worried so much about it, and make sure that your elevation is above sea level. Make sure your elevation is a certain amount, and you're not into a flood zone, and you should be good to go. Yeah, and if you want to live right on the coast, you know, sell your property. You know, get a condo or get a still house. Yeah. But anyways, we don't want to drag this on. We were just talking about everybody panicking and selling their houses, and we want to talk about it a little bit, but that's today's video. Do me a favor, if you like this kind of content, consider subscribing, give it a thumbs up, and hit a bell notification. Do you ever think that? No, that's great. Just any questions, as usual, just give us a call, and we'll be happy to discuss further and answer any questions you have. Great. That's perfect. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll speak to you in the next one. All right. Bye. See you soon.